The dungeon known as the Ancient Dragon Nest has finally been cleared by none other than player Shin Sanghyeon, who is completely tired of everything. Why is he still working so hard when he is almost 60? It has been 30 years since he started his life as a swordsman. His best achievement was ranking in the top 100 players in the country. In reality, he is just one needle in a haystack full of needles. His reward appears to be a skill book, but Shin has consumed these kinds of artifacts before. Maybe he can turn it into a stew or something. A large light flashes, and a portal appears. The constellation named Late Bloomer Model Student steps through, congratulating Shin on his hard work and praising his amazing final strike. This is his contracted constellation. Shin is genuinely grateful he managed to form a contract with one, considering he is only a third-rate swordsman. However, the constellation has quite a few demanding conditions. At level 850, all artifact and title stats are doubled. At level 900, those stats are tripled. Shin has yet to benefit from any of this because he is only level 650. The model student suggests that Shin start devouring the skill book, but Shin was already in the middle of doing just that. This is the only skill he has acquired since awakening. To figure out how it worked, he tried boiling the artifact, frying it, and conducting several other experiments, but none of them produced any result. By the time he ended those mostly useless experiments, 30 years had passed. All he needed to do to use the skill was perform mana synchronization. If the artifact is of a suitable rank, it will naturally be devoured. Unfortunately, he realized this far too late. Other players grew stronger the moment they awakened. This time the devour attempt fails again, and Shin throws the artifact away in frustration. He wonders if there should at least be some kind of instruction manual. The model student apologizes. There is very little information available about the skill, so he is unable to help. He then says that since there is still time, Shin should try mana synchronization once again. Shin cannot believe what he is hearing. How can the constellation say that when he is nearly 60? If he had a child at 30, that child would now be turning 30. If he had children even earlier, he might already have grandchildren. The model student apologizes for saying something inappropriate, but Shin tells him that he has done nothing wrong. His life is simply filled with regrets. He can never forget the tall back of that person. He tried his hardest to become like him, but now he is exhausted and far too old to keep going. The model student gets an idea. Before Shin can declare his retirement, the constellation casts a spell on him. Shin's body begins to melt slowly. The constellation is using an essence he has experimented with, offering Shin exactly what he wants. Another chance in the form of regression. On a television broadcast, Park Jong, a reporter for Player G, interviews someone about the dungeons and gates. He asks if they are essentially environments for awakened individuals or players as they are called. Han Hyun-jong, the CEO of Hyunjong Corporation, confirms this. The dungeons serve as stepping stones, while the gates allow players to travel to other dimensions and entirely new worlds. It is a spectacular sight to witness. Shin watches all of this on his old television, stunned that he actually did regress. He now has a clearer understanding of the situation, but 4 days have already passed, and he has only traveled back 30 years. After the constellation cast the spell, he lost consciousness and woke up in his studio apartment. He realized quickly that he was not in his old and frail body, but in a fresh and young one. He knew, then, that this was a miracle granted by the constellation. Still, many questions remain. However, he chooses not to dwell on them. He can now go back to working alongside him. He owns a bronze artifact called the Venomed Dagger. He considers himself lucky to have acquired it. Despite being low-ranked, it holds a hidden skill. He begins absorbing it, although the rate is slow, since he has not used it long. What matters most is the hidden skill. The mana synchronization begins, and he is drawn into the gap of consciousness. This is the place he must pass through in order to consume an artifact. It usually makes him nervous, but now it feels almost pleasant. The preparations to absorb the dagger are complete. It appears in the form of rotisserie barbecue chicken drizzled with fresh olive oil. Shin is relieved to see a normal meal, and not something horrific like centipede mush. He begins eating. After finishing the meal, he permanently gains 2 agility points and acquires the secret skill called Demon Bash. The dagger disappears entirely. While it is unfortunate that it was destroyed, Shin did gain the skill he wanted, along with a satisfying meal. He decides to move forward and see what else he can accomplish. At the 85th dungeon, Yoon Duk-young's team is eagerly preparing to enter. Suddenly, someone runs up to him. It is the Porter Group leader. He explains that one of his team members, Shin Y, has withdrawn. He is just a newcomer who joined 4 days ago. Dokyung tells him not to worry. Shin will be joining the player team instead. The porter leader is shocked. How can a porter become part of the player team? Dokyung responds that he had the final approval. Is there a problem with that? The porter leader insists there is. Shin has not even attended the player academy yet. Adding someone like that will unbalance the team. How is he supposed to divide the workload? Dokyung turns to him and asks if he is not the one who handles everything, including party management and item distribution. The porter leader is intimidated and steps back without saying anything further. One of Dokyung's team members quietly wonders why he accepted Shin. The truth is simple. Dokyung believes that if someone has to die better, it be Shin than one of his own. Shin will also serve as a useful example to other porters. Eventually, Shin arrives and introduces himself. The players and porters look at him with visible disdain. Dokyung greets him kindly. He assumed Shin would be late on his first day, especially since it is almost time to start. He notices that Shin is carrying a longsword. Shin explains that he learned how to wield it through online study. Dokyung warns him that the longsword is one of the most difficult weapons to use effectively. Shin assures him that he can protect himself, so there is no need for concern. Dokyung appreciates his spirit and tells the team to move out. As they head in, Dokyung watches Shin and thinks he is being absurd. No one can truly learn how to use that weapon through the internet. He probably believes dungeons are a fun experience. He will find out soon enough that being a player is nothing like a game. According to the strategy guide, this is an orc dungeon, which is known to be extremely dangerous for new players. Shin will learn the hard way. However, that very same fool proceeds to take down all of the orcs ahead, including the boss, without suffering a single scratch. Everyone is stunned and begins asking who this guy really is. Orcs are a classic monster in any fantasy setting. Because of their familiarity, people often underestimate them. Compared to dragons, they might seem weak. That perception leads new players filled with arrogance to charge at orcs, believing them to be easy prey. That is a critical mistake. Orcs typically stand around 250 centimeters tall and weigh approximately 180 kilograms. These physical traits give them an overwhelming advantage against ordinary humans. For that reason, they are often referred to as the Wall of Lament, a barrier that new players struggle to overcome. As the party ventures deeper into the dungeon, one member warns Shin not to expect special treatment just because he is new. The porter leader mutters that Shin is acting overly confident just because he awakened. Shin replies that he will do his best, but senses that everyone is against him. The party members tell him not to just try, but to actually do his best. They wonder aloud if he was this annoying back when he was a porter. Shin smiles and asks if he can fight on the front lines when monsters appear. A party member tells him he must have a death wish. Just then, a massive orc appears. Shin becomes excited. It is his first battle since his regression. The party member rushes in with his shield, shouting that Shin is crazy. How does he expect to use a greatsword with such slow movements? Shin calmly tells him that he does not need help. The party member yells for him to look ahead. By the time he does, a massive axe is already flying toward him. Dokyung steps in and knocks the orc to the ground with a bash. He scolds them for being careless and tells them to pull themselves together. The party member apologizes, and Dokyung says he will handle the orc himself. The orc roars in rage and charges again. Dokyung blocks the attack and thrusts his blade into its chest. The team assumes the fight is over, but the orc pulls the blade out and launches another attack. Shin watches quietly. He is not impressed by Dokyung's performance. Considering that Dokyung is the highest level player in the group at level 50, Shin does not have much hope for the rest. Shin charges forward and strikes the orc, directly bringing it down. The party cheers. Before they can celebrate, a group of red orcs appears all ready to fight. Panic sets in. One party member asks what they should do. Dokyung admits that they must retreat. He can barely handle one orc by himself. There is no way he can fight this many. Shin volunteers to give it a try. The rest of the party glares at him. Before Dokyung can object, Shin rushes in and kills the first red orc with a single slash. The group is shocked. How can a newcomer split a red orc in two? Shin is surprised as well. He expected a cleaner cut, but he lacks power because he is only level 1. The orcs respond to his arrogance by charging at him while screaming. Despite being low level, Shin has decades of battle experience. 3 orcs attack him at once. He defeats all of them instantly. The armored orc swings at him. Shin dodges the strike effortlessly and counters with an upward slash, taking the orc down. The entire party is left speechless. Shin moves on to the final orc, a heavily armored brute who screams as he prepares to strike.